What's up, guys? Jeremy Weiss here with Weiss Tech Hockey, and in this video I've got a quick circle passing drill that I'm going to show you two variations of it, and I like to use this drill. This is kind of an interim type drill for me, and what I mean by that is when we're introducing a new passing skill, so like a forehand pass, cushion and sweep, backhand, touch pass, saucer pass, anything like that, I usually like to start and give the kids an opportunity to do it standing still. So stationary passing where they just have, there's no pressure on them, they're not moving, no other variables. All they're really working on is nailing down the mechanics, the technique of whatever pass type we're working on. Eventually, of course, we want to build up to like a game-like situation where there's a little bit of flow, a little bit of timing, positioning elements, maybe even some pressure against, where they're having to use those skills in a more dynamic setting. But what I'm talking about here is in the interim, I like to kind of build them up to that point. So from point A, where they're doing it stationary, all the way up to point C, there's got to be something in between. And that's where I use drills like these circle passing drills that I'm going to show you today, where there's a little bit of movement, there's a little bit more to think about, it's a little bit more dynamic, but it's not a full-blown game situation quite yet. So like I said, there's two variations of this, and I want to show you those today. So variation one is circle passing with 5 players. So I call it 5-man circle passing. And in this case, what we're doing here is they just spread out around the circle. We got one player that has the puck. Every player is knees bent, ready position, ready to give and receive a pass. And then all it is if, let's say we're going counterclockwise here, so going to the left, you'll skip a player and then hit the next player with that pass. Okay, so each player skips a player and then makes that pass. Okay, this player, and then whatever passing type you're working on, that's what you're doing. So if we're just doing a standard forehand pass, cushion and sweep, working on the soft hands to receive and then the sweep pass to give, that's what we're going to do. But you can build up, work into a backhand, work into a touch pass. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we go here. But this player does the same thing, skip a man and then pass across to the next player. This player skips a player and passes across. And of course, this player skips one and passes across like this, and this player skips one and it comes back to the player who started. So at the end, you've got like a star formation of what you're doing, what the passing patterns look like. Now, this drill is quite dynamic, even though it's standing still, because you're working on a few things where, for example, you're always receiving from the same player and giving to the same player. So, for example, if I'm a righty, which I am, so I'm going to use that for an example, I'm receiving from my left and giving to my right. That's going to open me up a different way than if I'm receiving from my right and passing across my body to my left. So we want to work the circle in both directions. So in this case, we're going counterclockwise, and then after a few minutes, once it's looking decent, we want to go the other way so that it gives each player, both righty and lefty, the opportunity to receive and give in both directions. So hopefully that makes sense. So again, this version of it is stationary. You're standing still, but you're adding in some different passing angles into the mix there. So the next variation of this, let me just delete some of these lines here, is one that I actually prefer. So you might want to build up to it. It's a little bit more complicated, but not too bad. So you might want to build up to it. It's a 6-man version. So we're going to add a 6th player in here. We're going to spread these out a little bit more evenly. And the same concepts still apply, except now we're going to be giving our pass across. So we skip a man and give it, so same thing, skip the man and hit this player here. And then you're going to follow your pass. Now I'm going to draw this like this. Really, it's going to be almost a straight line, but I'm going to draw it like this so we can kind of see the route. And you've got to be, as this speeds up, so as the players get the hang of this, that's got to be a sprint. Okay, if not, then you're going to be gumming up the middle of the circle, and that's part of the effectiveness of this drill, is that it forces the players to give that pass and then explode across. So same thing here, this player is going to skip a player and pass to this one here, okay, and then follow the pass, just like this, okay. This player is going to skip a player, so now who are we skipping? Because this player has already left, right? So the player is, and this looks a little bit more complicated on paper than it ends up being in actuality, but they're going to skip this player. This guy's already gone, so this is the next player here. Okay, so skip it, pass across, and then follow your pass like that. This player skips this player who is there because this one has filled that player's spot. So skip a man, follow your pass, like that. Okay, we're going to skip a man here and follow your pass. And then this last one is, remember, this player has already gone. Okay, so we're going to skip this player and it ends with him. And that is the first player. Okay, him or her, I should say. So that is player number 1, the player who started it. And then we follow our pass here. Okay. So again, it ends up looking fairly complex on paper. It's not really that difficult. It still makes kind of that star shape, but this star is rotating as it goes because everybody's switching positions, filling each other's position. But this is a really fun one. And again, you can work on forehand, backhand. Where this one really starts to get to be a lot of fun is when we start doing with touch passes, because touch passes are so much faster and it really starts speeding things up. And that's when the players really got to start, sprinting through, or else they get in the way of each other's passes. So it makes it more challenging and more fun. But if you're doing the touch passes, and I like to tell my players to skate into the pass, especially in a touch pass situation, because I should mention before we get into this, you're still receiving from the same player and passing to the same player every single time. It's just that that's rotating, so you kind of got to be aware of where your players are that you're going to be receiving from and giving to. But as this happens, you can anticipate the pass coming through, and I like to tell my players, take a step into it and then redirect it. So if you do it right, then it ends up being like the actual area where we're having these puck touches is actually fairly condensed. Because if we've got these guys skating full speed into the passes, skating in, they take a step in, redirect that pass, and then follow their pass. It ends up being like touch, 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 as the players are sprinting through and crisscrossing through the middle of that circle. It ends up being really fun, really cool. If you gradually speed it up, the players get to the point where they can do that, and they're keeping track of it all. And it's a pretty awesome drill as that starts happening. So in this one, I don't know, saucer pass might be something interesting to try on this one. It is more complex. I think it's definitely doable on the 5-man version where you're standing still. On this one, that might be a little bit of a challenge. You probably couldn't do it in motion as easily as you can with a touch pass version. But it's awesome. So, and it incorporates a little bit of footwork. If the pass is a little bit off, you got to adjust your feet to it, things like that. But this is a really fun version of this. So again, make sure we're doing it both directions. So in this case, this is the counterclockwise. We also want to go clockwise, and spend a few minutes on this. You can get 6 players on each circle or whatever, or depending on what your team looks like. If you can run it at one end and then run something else at the other end, however you structure your practices. In the next video, I'm not going to get into this because I don't want to make it too long, but in the next video, I'm going to show you a version of this, because in my situation, we're sharing the ice actually with 3 teams on my Squirts and Pee Wees teams. So it doesn't make sense. We don't have 3 or 4 circles to take up with our players. So I've come up with a different drill that kind of accomplishes some of these same things, but does it in like a station setting, like in a quarter ice setting in this case. So I'll get that one as our next drill, but you can be kind of looking forward to that. But in the meantime, if the situation suits itself for you, put this to work and see how it goes for you. Again, it's one of those great drills that you can use to bridge the gap between stationary passing and more complex, flow and timing type drills. So that's circle passing, 5-man and 6-man version. And you can go to weisstechhockey.com for more stuff like this. We've also got, we'll put the link in the description of this video where you can get the printout of this drill, so you can bring it to the rink and use it in your own practices. But that's it for that. We'll sign off, and we'll be back again soon with more stuff that'll help you improve your coaching.